Hi guys, Beyond Reason, David Stone here. I mentioned before in another vlog the conversation between Stephen Woodford and Jonathan Pageau. And Pageau made this claim, which went uncommented on, about there being a natural hierarchy, and you can't get away from natural hierarchy. And the assumption is, and you see this everywhere, that there in our take on reality, as it were. I know it's heavy, but it's there. There's this kind of like pyramid of which God is at the top, or the supernatural, or the ineffable, or the noumena, the unknown is at the top, and then at the base is grounded forms of reality. But they're all kind of like, as it were, directed by this top-down approach. That also has a kind of a mirror in the way many of the right wing commentators that are my targets talk about the natural order of things. As it happens, the natural order of things seems to coincide with the sort of imperialist, post-colonialist mindset of predominantly white men at the top of this pyramid, and everybody else underneath in some way, and then the proles, the working classes at the bottom of the heap. Anyway, the subject matter for today is human nature and my opposition to it. Why? Well, because I see an assumption of human nature permeating huge amounts of discourse, and it seems to follow that we try to describe it, and have done historically, through metaphor. And the metaphor might have been, back in the day, like a mechanical one that came out of Newtonian physics, that we have mechanical parts that are joined together, that are controlled in some sort of way. In Galen's time, the locus of consciousness was the heart, and then latterly the brain. But either way, this sort of mechanical model. And right up till 2025, Steven Pinker, many others have a kind of computational view of human consciousness, and human nature is explicable. It's there. It has a cultural, psychological, historical, sociological, anthropological character. You can track it out. You can trace it. And I think this is a mistaken view, and it's also a dangerous view. I think some of the biggest catastrophes in our experiment as conscious beings have been precisely around, both through fascism and distorted communism, assumptions about human nature which are just not founded, and in particular the kind of perfectibility of human nature that underpinned a lot of the Stalinist projects in the Soviet Union. The proles, freed from the shackles of capitalism, could live a new, unalienated, connected, socially relevant life. But we have to just slaughter hundreds of thousands of people in order to get there, kind of thing. The perfectibility of the Aryan race, which informed the Volk of the German Nazi ideology. This idea that there was, Superman, the Nietzschean idea, distorted idea, by the way. Anyway, it's in Steven Pinker's book, How the Mind Works. It permeates everything, but it's now done on this kind of AI computational calculus that consciousness and human nature are explicable. I don't think either is. And why not? Because when we look at other species and we look at their natures, whether it's a worm or a seagull or a chaffinch, two birds, or an alligator or a lion or polar bear, it doesn't matter. Their natures aren't inexplicable. You can track them. You can trace their development from birth to death in a linear way across every aspect of their development, from gestation to nurture to sustenance to environment to predatory or predated behavior, whatever, and it's contained, right? There is nothing extra sensible about their natures and their existence. Their natures are clearly describable, and they can't operate outside of it. You won't see a lion in the polar regions. You won't see a polar bear in Africa. The birds that build nests of a species always build nests of the species. They don't depart from that. You know, it doesn't matter which other non-self-conscious species you look at, even gorillas and chimpanzees, operate in a very predictable way. We don't. No other species has invented a culture. The faculties that we have, and despite Pete Singer's views, which I think are over anthropomorphized, about the sentience of other creatures being an important factor, which I think is true, and freedom from pain needs to be a consideration, definitely. I don't think there's any merit in arguing that a chimpanzee or gorilla, or the famous examples of jackdaws or magpies or crows mimicking by developing some kind of stick to pick out insects, whatever it is, chimpanzees, monkeys, apes using proto tools. None of that lends itself, in my view, anywhere near to the scale of difference between Homo sapiens sapien and all other species in terms of the faculties we have for imagination, creation, invention, abstract thinking, communication across vast expanses of time and space, locomotion, use of energy, resources, tools, equipment, weapons even, art, culture, music, literature, poetry, whatever. It just doesn't compare. It's not even in the same category of any explicable sense of comparison. And also, we ain't done yet. We've still got an endless journey in front of us, and we've got no idea where that's going to lend itself to. And there is like this whole thing that's starting to emerge now about transhuman development, in which we increasingly start to implant cybernetics or technological components, and we evolve over time to become more than we currently are. That I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we will replace parts, but not consciousness. I don't think we can replace consciousness, and I'll come on to that in a different vlog. Why I think consciousness is not capable of being generated through silicon or through an artificial intelligence medium. But outside of that, for now, I just want to, if you accept the argument that human nature is probably not a thing, there isn't a thing, despite Maslow's hierarchy, and I accept all of that there are basic human needs, especially for companionship, for love, for fellowship, for society, the obvious needs for food and water and shelter and security, those sorts of things. We have cultural needs for education, for art and everything else. They're needs, but they're not defining of a set character that is immutable. We we're not going to evolve into being a different physical thing, but I think we are constantly evolving our consciousness and our morality. And no other species, as far as I can judge or discern or assess, has a moral compass, a moral basis that governs or guides their actions. So, if there's some merit in this argument against human nature, then the idea of hierarchy just falls apart. You get the connection. There can't be such a thing as a natural hierarchy, whether there's God at the top and Homo sapiens sapiens second or third down after demiurge or other spiritual forms or whatever. It can't be there because the thing you're trying to insert doesn't have that definitive character. So that's important, but so it's an important antidote to the idea of the perfectibility of our species, aka failed Stalinism and the failure of fascism. It's a constant reminder that we need to be wary of claims for who we are, as if it was like a sealed job done kind of thing. And it undermines the idea of a natural hierarchy, which is part of the narrative of the current far right. So for all those good solid reasons, I want to just insert into our conversation, and obviously, hit me up with your views, tell me what you think, let's have a rap about it. But in my view, the assumption of there being such a thing as human nature is mistaken.